Welcome to another segment of the Women in Publishing Summit. This is going to be a great interview, and we'll just see where it leads us because there's so many interesting things that I can talk to Jenny about. By the way, I'm Alexa Big Wharf, host of the Women in Publishing Summit, sponsored by our friends at Thinkific. And I am really excited to talk about book launches, as funny as that may sound to people who are not in the industry. But a book launch can truly be the make or break factor for your book, which may make sense to some people, but other people might think, I can just market the book after it's published, or, oh, I can do this or that. And it's true. You totally can. There's no doubt about it. But I can tell you for a fact, after watching the number of women that I have put through a book launch and testing different things, that the stronger your initial just jettison into the world, the stronger overall you will be with sales and confidence and all kinds of things. So we're going to get into that. Let me tell you about our guest today. So Jenny, let me just read you her bio here so I don't mess anything up or try to, give her credit for things she didn't do or vice versa. In a culture obsessed with food and the ideal body image, Jenny offers men and women the chance to experience body love, pleasure with food again, greater self-esteem, and total acceptance of self. Her work focuses on healing our often fraught relationship with our bodies and with tuning into intrinsic wisdom to learn how to nourish ourselves naturally and joyfully. Jenny's own journey of body blame and food fear led her on a path of healing that inspired her to write her #1 best-selling book and Forward Review finalist, The Body Image Blueprint. She earned her master's in psychology and education from the University of Pennsylvania and later went on to receive her certificate in eating psychology coaching and mindful eating. This is a person I need in my life. She resides in Boston with her husband, 3 spirited daughters, and 2 kittens. Thank you so much for being here today to talk with us about book launches, which doesn't sound like by your bio would be our category, but you've learned a thing or two along the way.
Yeah, I loved launching my book. For me, it was like the most fun part of the whole process. And, what I did, I self-published. So this is going to be from the lens of self-publishing, of course. But if you are published and have a publisher, you can still do all these things because, you never know. I'm sure every publishing company helps market their authors differently, especially, and they don't always do book launches either. So this can really relate to anybody who's self-publishing or published by a major or minor publishing group. So I just had so much fun with it. I wanted to create really 3 elements. One was having a local book launch so that the people in my community could get excited and support a local author, right? And then what I found in that process, which I'll talk to you more about, is the community just loves helping other creatives and authors and artists. And I had people like giving me things for free, like donating cakes and liquor, and I got the space for free. So that was all really fun. The second element was a digital online launch, which was really multifaceted. And then the third one is really like letting your community in the online community. So like your mailing list and social media and like doing like a book launch online party. And so making it really social so that you could build up the excitement about when you're actually going to, like, it's live, you can buy it. And actually building that buzz is super, super fun.
All excellent points that I am looking forward to dig into. But before we get too far into that, I want to step back and say, it's interesting. Your background, even though it's in food relationships and fear and those kinds, the body image and all of those kinds of things, I think that as women in general, we carry a lot more of these issues with us than a man would, just across the board. I think that's my observation. I don't have any scientific data to go or research data to go behind that, but my observation. And I think that a lot of times those types of issues can also be very blocking to us when it comes to all the things that you just talked about. Because I hear so many women say, I need to lose 10 more pounds before I do this, or I don't feel comfortable with where I am right now, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. So I think, one of the things that would be interesting as we go through this conversation is maybe to weave in, if you have any tips for like those types of issues for anyone who they may not apply to you. That's okay, ladies. Just keep on going with us. Her book launch tips will. But for anyone who does struggle with some of those appearance or body image issues that relate to stopping you from going online, going live places, going to try and get TV spots, doing a live launch or anything like that. I think because of your experience, it'd be kind of cool to weave those things in if you're good with that.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Great. So before we get back to you, I want to say that I have seen this in action, actually, because when I first started, we did a lot of emphasis on the online book launch and the launch team parties and the getting the reviews on Amazon and all that kind of stuff. And those are a crucial part. But I have noticed that since we've started shifting our focus to making sure that our authors also do a live in-person event, like their book sales have gone through the roof. In the last few launches we've done, like all three of them, the last three have sold over 100 books just at their launch parties. And my friend Jerry, who is an elderly woman who just wrote her first book and has been doing live author events all over the place, is now at almost 400 books sold in 3 months, which is like, that's insane for a first-time published small indie published author with like no audience or platform, right?
That's huge.
So
yeah.
These live events are tremendous. So I'm excited that that's part of your strategy. And I'd love to know from you, the question I think that a lot of people ask is, where do you have them and how do you organize them? And I'd love to know how you get people to give stuff to you for free. Especially the liquor. So dish your secrets.
Oh yeah. So, I live in an amazing community, first of all. It's a fairly large town. It's in the suburbs of Boston. And, depending on your community, if you just literally, there's a mantra I live by. If you don't ask, the answer is always no, right?
That's so true.
So I just decided I'm going to ask. And the worst thing they can say is, no, I can't help you. Right. But I really wanted, the book is about body image and about healing your relationship with food and embodiment. And I really wanted to have elements of that theme throughout the whole book launch, both online and locally. So I hired a plus size belly dancer to perform. It was awesome. And she did henna for the kids.
Oh,
and
cool.
I went into this I was looking at different places and I found this like interior design store that was like literally huge. It was like 3,000 square feet. It was all these like really cool Art Deco furniture. And I just walked in there. I'm like, any chance you want to run a party for me? And she's like, I'd love to. And I was like, okay. Yeah, it was crazy. She's like, I love supporting creative people. And so she gave me this whole space for free. Let me have food. Let me have the belly dancer. It was so much fun. And you're absolutely right. I ended up having 100 people at that launch party. And I sold so many books that day, which was fabulous. And I met new people, like people in my community who had businesses of their own that I could collaborate with. And it was just really wonderful. So I really love the idea of just connecting with local stores and businesses to come in and say, I'm a local author. I'm doing this party. Would you like to support it? And also it's great, advertising for them.
Yeah.
Because they're going to highlight their wine and they're going to highlight, their own. I had the local bakery make a huge cake with the cover of my book as a photo of it.
Amazing.
It was just incredible. So what I would first say is, if you don't ask, the answer is no. And it's really hard to just sit there. A lot of people feel very uncomfortable, like burdening anybody or asking. Yeah. But really it's about you, and it's about you creating a buzz around this, you birthed a book, right. That's a huge thing.
It's a
and
big
and I've found that people really, really respect and honor that and want to help you in any way that they can.
I agree, and you can really see it. I think that people get afraid of the ask with anything. I will say, with my background and history, like I used to be terrified of the ask, and then we lost a child, and I've started doing a lot of fundraising for a nonprofit, and doing something like that is a very easy ask because it's so emotional to me. I have no problems asking people to help us support our March for Babies team because of how important the NICU and neonatal care and all of these things are, right? So I've had a lot of practice asking for something that was an easy ask, but that's helped me in my career. So if you have a problem asking or putting yourself out there or trying to raise money or trying to do things like this, totally off topic here, but I suggest you find something that's an easy ask that's not going to be taken personally when people say no, and try and do stuff like that. That's totally a segue here. What I wanted to really say there was, I'm sorry, we just got started and I'm, 2 cups of coffee in, so I'm a little excited right now. No, what I was going to say is that there is a difference in the way your friends and family want to support you. Your friends and family really do want to support you, but there's a very different mentality of when you send out an email or post on your Facebook page or, all these things and say, my book is out there, than it is when you're live and in person and it's right there and you're selling copies and they're standing there and they're milling around and they're talking to other people and they're having a couple glasses of wine and they're getting excited about what's happening, and they will purchase right then. If it's just on Facebook, they'll be like, okay, I'll order it on Amazon next week. And all of a sudden 3 years have passed by and they never ordered your book.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's that factor.
Yeah. And throughout the whole thing, I did have a goal of hitting #1 bestseller. And so I had like sort of how am I going to achieve that? Like, what could I do both locally and online to really build this buzz? So when I say it's open, it's ready to purchase, that everybody floods there in one day, which is exactly what happened. So, so just to tell your audience how to build that buzz, there was a few things that I did from the digital online perspective. First of all, I created a 5-day launch party event where
5 days. That's fantastic. That's ambitious.
I was building it the whole week. And so this was a combination with Facebook and also my online, my mailing list. So what I did was I contacted 5 businesses that were either related to or associated with the topic, which is body image and wellness and health. And I asked them, so it was a lot of asking, but I asked them to give away something to whoever was signing up for that particular giveaway. So every day I would highlight this business. There was one business called Peach that did like really body positive intimate wear and active wear, and they donated something. One of my favorite personal trainers donated a session. There was a whole bunch of stuff, and I actually made tote bags with like cute little quotes, and I did that as a giveaway. So there were 5 different giveaways. So people were excited to check their email. What's the giveaway going to be? Right. And I'm going to sign up for it. And so that buzz kept going all week, which was so fun. And then on the last day, so I'd actually published the book a couple of weeks before my launch. And why I did that was because I wanted to build reviews. I wanted reviews already populated on there. And so when I finally sort of told everybody it was open, then, they would already see that there was reviews and it was all set up. And so one of the last things I did was I collaborated with 2 of my coach friends, and they donated a package, both of them. And I had my last giveaway. And basically I said, if today's the day to buy the book. If you give me your receipt, if you send me your receipt, I'll send you these 3 amazing bonuses.
Nice.
And it literally I think I sold over 100 books the first day that it was live. And I kept watching it go higher and higher on Amazon. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. And then I kept posting photos and being like, you know what? I'm almost #1. You guys help me out here, you know? So it was really fun. People were really excited because, if you see a friend of yours rising up on the Amazon list, that's exciting and they want to support that.
It is exciting. And, I'm sorry if you saw the notebook move over here, I wanted to make sure I
Okay.
took these notes on these. These are really great ideas. The idea of it makes it so much easier. You kind of just exemplified the point that I was trying to make. You were able to promote yourself by using somebody else. So it's a lot easier for you to say, come on over, register for this free, training session or whatever. And oh, by the way, this is in leading up to my book launch, whatever. So, that just partnering with other organizations and doing that is a great way to take the pressure off of feeling like you're just promoting yourself. Because a lot of women feel icky about that. A lot of women feel like they're just saying, buy my book, and they don't like that feeling. So great idea there. And yes, for anybody who has never published a book before, they have no idea what that means to be an Amazon bestseller or any of these things. So, you may hear things in circles that Amazon bestseller is not a big deal, blah, 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 blah. Nobody else knows that outside of the writing community. And by the way, that's not always true, because there are some categories and some places that if you're an Amazon bestseller, you are selling a lot of books. So don't let anybody tell you that's not a big deal if you've ever heard that.
It's a big deal. And then also I got international bestseller. Why? Because I have a whole family in Canada. They were all buying
nice.
It. And I was like, oh yeah, Canada in the house.
So if you don't know any people in another country, contact Jenny and say, can I borrow your Canadian friends when I launch my book?
Exactly. I'll hook you up with my Canadian family.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people do ask, like, what does it take to become an international bestseller? And that's exactly what it is. It's just hitting the top of the charts in one other country. Yeah. So if you know somebody, a couple people in Germany or the UK or Canada, most of us have a Canadian friend or two. That's amazing. And then timeline wise, where did you then, you were putting a lot of efforts into your digital launch and your Facebook online launch. Where did you do the live launch? Was that in the same time frame? Did you wait? Did you do it?
I waited. I actually waited a month because I wanted to have all that initial buzz when it first got published and to get the bestseller status and all that stuff. And then I wanted to wait and actually take my time to create and plan an incredible party. I just wanted a big party, and I wanted it to be beautiful, and I wanted it to be related to the theme of my book. So people really got the feel for what is she writing about and what does it mean, and everything in the space sort of represented me in that book. And so it felt so aligned with everything that I was doing. And like I said, it actually can be really fun because you get to like meet people in your community. I was going to bookstores. I was like walking around. I even have a friend who's a publicist, and she went and like posted like a what do you call that? What do you call that? A press release.
Oh, I was like, what are you going for?
A press release to all of the local like radio stations and magazines and TV stations. So I had a little bit of media there, which was, I just was looking at all angles. Like, do I have a friend who does that? My cousin owns this like local healthy food restaurant. He donated a bunch of food. So it's about like thinking about who in your circle of people can you like really reach out to and say, hey, I need some help. I want to have this huge party to celebrate a huge accomplishment. Like, make no mistake, you writing a book and publishing it is a huge accomplishment. So
it sure is.
Relish in it. I know it's really hard to like, and it's hard for me because my own food story, my own like weight cycling, and to put myself out there, it was very vulnerable, and it was very like, well, like, how are people going to respond to that? And you almost feel like you're inside yourself, like people are like, there's a spotlight on you. And so you do have to deal with that. But I often say, like, feel the fear and do it anyway, because it's like, when's the last time you got yourself really uncomfortable and found out that there was something magical that happened because of it? I mean, we all want to be safe and feel familiar and feel comfortable. But it's oftentimes when we're really pushing ourselves beyond anything that's comfortable when the most magical things happen.
That's really a wonderful point. And, shoot, hold on. Okay, I got it. I'm back. So you raised such an excellent point as well, though, about the month-long break. And that is for anybody who's a first time, has not published a book yet, it is like you ran a marathon and the day after launch day, you feel like you need to go sleep for 3 weeks.
Yes,
So
so
that's another reason why it's a good idea to put a little bit of time in between the push for the launch and then your actual party, so that you have the time to recuperate and get reinvigorated again and all of that stuff. So it's not always the case. Some people have a lot more energy than me, and that's great. But
I don't.
but most people, if you watched Amy Simpkins' interview through the summit, she said the same thing. Like, she launched that book and then she was just done. She needed to take a step back. And this is a marketing thing that people struggle with too, because really when you publish your book, like, that's when marketing begins. You think you've done all the hard work and then you're like, oh snap, I got to keep figuring out stuff, So doing a live launch is great too. And one of our authors partnered with a local bookstore. You don't have to do it at a bookstore. There's lots of places that you can do it with, but she partnered with a local bookstore. And if you do a bookstore or business and they have an online presence, they can also promote the event, and you may wind up bringing in a lot of people that you don't even know that come in because of the promotion that the venue did for you.
Yes, absolutely. And I also feel like with like, any launch, but of course, even a book launch, you mentioned like taking that break. It's you have to prepare yourself for the marathon. Like, I'm a year out from publishing, even more, and I still promote it, and it's like, you have to really be thinking about that long-term goal of, you're putting this initial push, and then you want to sort of draw things out to create momentum in other areas at different times, whether it's like, okay, now I'm going to focus on workshops where I can sell my book. Now I'm going to do, I'm going to, visit some local bookstores and see if they'll add them. Now I'm going to make sure I do a blog tour with bloggers who review books. So I've done that whole thing, so you do it in stages, because to do it all at one point is just maddening and exhausting. I remember that it was a Friday, and it was that day where I was literally at my computer like this all day, like watching it rise and go up. And I was like, oh my God, I have to get out of here. And my coach, my trainer at the time, was like, meet me at the park and the woods, and we went and like, we played with trees, and we were going in and out under the branches, and it was so fun, and it was exactly what I needed. I needed to be in nature for like an hour, and then I came back and I was refreshed, and I felt, okay, let's get back to it.
Yeah, taking breaks is really important. And also, just getting out and being, I love that you said I needed to be in nature, because this is one of the things that whether it's just stress over the launch or whether it's writing blocks or anything like that, it's amazing what getting out and moving your body and being in fresh air can do for you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, the whole nine.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you have anything else that you want to talk about with the live book launches, I want to kind of circle back around and talk about fear a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I'm not going to lie, I have a lot of fear about putting myself out there in front of people. And I know that a lot of other people do. You said the words yourself, you're extremely vulnerable. And no matter what the topic of our book is, we always feel that, am I smart enough? Am I enough? Am I knowledgeable enough? Am I the expert? What if people are like, why did you write a book? All of these things. And then you add in like body image and am I pretty enough? Am I thin enough? Am I, is my laugh too loud? All these things that come in and make us wonder, what's going on with us. So do you have any tips on kind of how to maneuver that?
Yeah. Anytime you're sort of in the public eye, you're going to be more self-aware about not only your physical appearance, but also how you feel about having that spotlight on you inside. And a lot of times there's nervousness, sometimes there's dread, sometimes there's fear, sometimes there's like you freeze, you're stymied. And there were times like I couldn't go live on Facebook to share about it because I just didn't have it in me that day. Do you know what I mean? And like there are other days where I feel very embodied. And this is actually what I talk about in the book, is like how how to agree to be in the body you have, even when you're feeling scared, even when you are feeling bloated or uncomfortable, or you feel like you're a fraud in some way. How do you embody that and stay present with those emotions and still move forward? And I think that is really key. And that happens through sort of mindfulness and meditation, really dropping into the body to experience, actually feel those feelings as opposed to trying to circumvent them and pretend that they're not there. Yeah. Because that won't help. It will only amplify that fear. So I found that when I get really still and steady and grounded, and I'm like, okay, I'm all in here. However I feel today, this is how I feel. And feelings and emotions don't necessarily translate to action. Like I could feel like terrible and go work out, and then I realize I feel amazing. And often that's the same thing with going live or putting yourself out there. Like I'm scared, I have butterflies, I'm really unsure, and I do it, I feel it, and I do it anyway. And then I'm like, I'm so glad I did that.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't half as bad as what I had fantasized in my mind. And guess what? Most people actually are really supportive, and those who aren't supposed to be part of your team, aren't supposed to be part of your audience anyway. They won't follow you anyway. So I found like just being myself and saying, okay, I'm going to be fully embodied while I do this, has really, really helped me to continue to put myself out there.
Yeah, it's interesting because, when you, I'm going to use direct sales as an example here because it's a really easy thing to do. Like, let's say you sell isogenics. We were talking about that before. Let's say you sell health shakes, right? You might feel a little bit disappointed if you're like really in love with a particular product and your friends and family think you're silly for doing it or whatever. Like that might personally impact you. But if somebody says no to buying a chocolate shake, there's no connection to you personally, right? If someone says no to buying your book or something like, something that you came from you created these words, you created this project. It is very much like birthing a child in many ways. It's a very different level of impact. And I think that, it not only and that impacts everything else. Like you feel rejection, and then that impacts how you feel about yourself in general. And then it's, what's wrong with me and all these types of things. And I hear a lot of women talk about these types of fears and vulnerableness and all of this stuff. So,
that was actually a part of my book. Like this is so apropos because when I first started, I blog a lot. So I had a blog up and somebody sent me an email or like a posted like in the comments, something so mean and so hurtful. They were like, look at you. Have you looked in the mirror? Why are you talking about food and body image? Like that's a joke. And like so mean and so unnecessary. And it like really hit me to the core. I'm like, wow, maybe I shouldn't be talking about this stuff because I'm not skinny mini and I'm not, I haven't. Then I was like, no, I'm putting out what is authentic to me. And I don't have to look a certain way or dress a certain way or move a certain way or have my hair a certain way for me to deliver this message and to know it's going to help people. It has nothing to do with what I look like. It has everything to do with my knowledge and how I communicate that to other people. So I'm not going to stop writing about food and eating and body image. Right. And I had to my one of my best friends like talk me off a ledge because I was so upset. But like, you know what? If you have a reaction, it's because you're doing something right. And if somebody has a negative reaction to something, what do they always say? Like better than no reaction, because then you're not generating conversation and so I realized like this was actually, I hit a nerve. And so maybe that's a good thing. And I actually ended up putting it in my book. I put the letter in my book.
Oh, wow.
Because as an example of fear and an example of how to move past imposter syndrome, how to move past like all those like fears and like, just be like, here it is. Like you decide.
Imposter syndrome is a big one. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I have to remind myself that I am not like that. I actually know a little bit about publishing. It's like,
I'm the expert.
It's like, how many years of this does it take? But you know what? This is exactly the reason why I wanted to create a summit like this, because we can talk about things like this that really do impact us as writers. I cannot tell you the number of women that I see on a daily basis who have a book like 95% done. 95%, they're sitting on that last part, and for some reason, they just cannot finish it. And I truly believe it's not because they're overcommitted. It's not because they're overstressed. It's not because, life is throwing it's not that. It's here. It's here. It's they're terrified. And,
well, there's fear of failure, but there's also fear of success too.
Yes.
Like, what if I'm actually validated for all this? What next? How do I handle that? And so it's easier just to like kind of go about your way and never make waves and never actually finish your project, because that, like, what if I fail? What if I succeed?
Right.
Definitely.
Right. So many interesting things we could go down on this. We actually have numerous interviews on mindset in this summit, because I just feel like it's so important for women to talk about this and to address it and to get tips and feedback on it. But I think that body image is such an important part of being an author as well, and being comfortable in your own skin. Because if you think about it, you may wind up on TV, you may wind up on podcasts, which even though you can't see your body on a podcast, people still feel you, it's how you sound, your voice. Do you feel like your voice is good enough? Do you have a funny laugh? Someone made fun of me for my laugh in the last summit, so I'm still trying to deal with that. But I
have a beautiful voice. I like your voice.
Well, thank you so much. But it happens to all of us, no matter where you are. Like you have to deal with this, and you're gonna have to get professional headshots, or full body headshots, or you might get on a TV news spot, all these things. So I do want to talk about just your book for a second. You gave us phenomenal. Did you want to say anything else about book launches before we move forward into the body image?
The only other thing I'll say is you've got to even though my launch was 1 week, I actually started it earlier, because I did like a book reveal, cover reveal, like little Facebook Live. And oh my gosh, I had so many views on that. People love that. Like, okay, here's the reveal. And it's just slowly building that momentum and buzz, like it's coming, and I think that, and also the other thing I'll say, if you're a blogger too, I wrote a ton of blogs about the topic, which was body image, and then sent people to a landing page to get on my mailing list and get a free chapter of the book. So it's like a preview. So, even though it's not part of the actual 5-day launch that I did, it was all the pre-launch stuff of building the buzz and getting people excited about it. So I'll just say that too.
That's great. You really, these are really, really fantastic ideas. And I personally love the idea of the 5 days and the giveaways to go with those, because people love free. And if you can attract them with it, they may not click on, yes, I'm coming to my live book launch, but they might click on day 1 giveaway, full year of Thinkific for you to build your course off of when you're done writing your book, or, that's for our audience, of course, or for your audience, a free, whatever it is. You had so many great options there. So it really does, any way that you can think outside of the box to pull people in that might have just gone on by your announcement like it's noise, because we have so much noise around us all the time. So you have to think of ways to get past the noise. So I love your tips, and I took some really good notes that I will be doing with our upcoming launches.
And I would just say, have fun. It's supposed to be fun, So let's have fun with it. And
I totally agree. Okay. So then we were talking about body image and how that impacts us as becoming, because once you publish your book, you have become a public person. You're in the public. Hopefully, if you've done things right, you are in the public. Yeah. We want to be in the public eye. So.
Want media attention.
Yes. So let's talk about your book and who it can benefit the most, and how it applies to this. We've kind of covered some of that, but more.
Yeah, sure. So the book is called The Body Image Blueprint, and it's really it's divided into three parts. The first part is really memoir style. Like I talked about my own journey of growing up in a household where like dieting was so important. And
Mm.
I grew up in the 80s and 90s and everybody was trying different diets. I'm actually from Scarsdale and they have like the Scarsdale diet, which is like a big, like I was sort of swept up into those times. And my mom is a chef. She's actually a very petite, tiny chef. So like, how that sort of played into my own view of my own body image starting at a very young age. But the really cool part is the middle part of the book, I actually interviewed 60 people, men and women, all ages. And I asked them very pointed questions related to body image. Like, when did you first become aware of your body? Did somebody ever say something to you that, had you believe that you were not enough or that you look different or something? What would it take to love your body unconditionally? When do you feel most comfortable in your skin? So I got the most incredible answers.
I bet.
It was so gracious. People just were being very honest and forthcoming. And I ended up taking those answers and building themes around it. So like themes to feel most comfortable in your skin, themes about how to love your body unconditionally, like those kinds of things came from the people I was interviewing. And I just had lots of like insight about that. And then the final phase of the book is really like your straight up self-help book. I put the 4 different body image realms and with very specific like how-tos and steps you can take like immediately to start to feel better in your skin, no matter what its current size or shape is. And so, I wanted to actually I wanted to embody what I was saying. And so for me to not go out there and talk about it and do events and workshops and would be the antithesis of what I was sort of talking about in the book. So again, as hard as it was for me, I remember at my own book party launch, my book launch party, I I had to get up. I came up in front with a microphone and I was talking about, I think I read the first, the what's that called? The preface of the book. And I was trembling because, and these were people who love me, my family, and I was trembling because I knew everybody's eyes were on me and the topic is so vulnerable, like we talked about before. So it's very hard, but it was so worth it. It was so worth it.
And I think it really only takes that one time of pushing past and that feeling of straight up euphoria once you realize that you've been accepted and that, a lot of what you fear was just up here, not the reality.
Yeah.
And, we all, if you're actually going to go through this process and do this and get it out there, you need people to affirm that you did a good job. I'm going to tell you a sad story here. I have an author, actually the very first person that I worked with. And it's a genre I would not normally do. It was gay erotica.
Interesting.
It was very interesting. I used to, my good friend and editor who is no longer editing anymore because she's gone back into the corporate world. He had found her. She sent him to me and said, he needs some help getting published. You're doing this now. And I was like, sure, I'll help you through the process. But he did not want to, he had a lot of anxiety about his book. He had a lot of anxiety about himself. He had a lot of, not necessarily body image, but still those vulnerabilities and all these types of things. So long story short, we published his book. It was a decent book, all being said. Take it with you what you will. But he did not want to promote it. He did not want to own the fact that he had written and published this book. And there were like 2 sales over the course of like 3 years. And there were, he got a negative review and it impacted him so heavily because, he wasn't willing to acknowledge who he was. And the only reason that I share that is I don't have no idea why I was sharing that. Jenny, what is wrong with me today?
No. I think what you're saying is like, even though it's very personal and it's very vulnerable, that even if it's like the theme of the book, like you're essentially
you, right?
You're selling yourself.
Exactly.
And that's really hard, especially when the topic is a little bit sensitive or it's controversial or if it's really vulnerable and extremely personal. It's very difficult to do that. And You
He
know,
wound up
he wasn't
unpublishing.
willing to fully own it, it
Right.
sounds like.
And he wound up coming back to me a couple years later and saying, I'm just going to pull the plug on this whole thing, which was super interesting. He never got to the point where he said, I'm going to own it and I'm going to try and market this and I'm going to see what happens. He just expected it to happen. And maybe that's where I was trying to go with this. Like, it's not just going to happen. You have to work at it. So you have to be comfortable with who you are and putting yourself out there to make it happen.
I definitely think other people's voices are important for validation and for, you know, making sure you're putting out a good product. But the most important thing is that you are believing in it and that you trust that your work is good and that people need to hear it and need to read it because there's going to be value to it.
Exactly.
And it's hard to separate the you from that, from the message that you're intending your audience and readers to get from that.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what tripped him up. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's such whether you're self-publishing, like I said in the beginning, or a major publisher is publishing your book, you still have to be in it. You
Right.
still have to do your part to market it and to build buzz and all of that.
And it's really, really difficult to do that if you aren't really okay with being out there in front of people. And, you know, it hurts. It always hurts when people say bad things about us. But that's why I tell people, don't read the comments. Do read the negative reviews. Some of them are just ridiculous. Like, we had one negative review on our last book that she wasn't even mad at us. She was mad at Amazon.
Yeah.
So we reported it and it got removed. But, you know, but negative reviews, and we've said this in a couple other interviews, are very important because it lets you know what people found missing in your book or really disliked about the book. And hopefully these are about the content, not about you as a person.
Yes.
Ignore those because obviously those people are crazy. But, you know, you can really do things to improve your next book or things like that based on reviews. But, you know, it's a long process to build up a thick skin.
Yes, it is. It definitely is. And sometimes you can build it up and then it's gone in a flash and then you have to rebuild it up. Yeah. It's all part of the process.
Don't let it impact who you are as a person.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we went all over the place today. I kind of said that at the beginning. Who knows where this interview is going to go? We're just going to go with the flow. But I love the topic, and I truly see so many women impacted by this fear that comes from vulnerableness, and a lot of times because they're not comfortable in their own skin. So we gotta work on that kind of stuff, ladies.
I'm here for everybody. Maybe that'll be a new niche, like body image for authors.
There you go. That should be book number 2. How to prepare yourself for being in the public eye. I mean, you know, there's a whole new level. It's one thing to find out that, you know, to get comfortable with yourself. It's another thing to get out there. I mean, some of those poor, I'm not one that follows Hollywood or anything like that, but some of those poor women and the things that are said about them. And
I know, right? It's absurd. It's absurd.
All right. Well, Jenny, I appreciate your time so much. Thank you for bearing with me as I had some, just brain stoppages today. We'll just put it like that.
No, this was awesome. I so enjoyed talking with you, and I so appreciate being on your summit, and thank you so much.
And we will make sure that all of your information is below. Please let people know who are listening only where to find you. What's your website?
Yeah, it's www.jennyeden, Eden is my middle name, and then coaching.com. So www.jennyedencoaching.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.